T.
We're good. We're live on the YouTube.
Hello.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hello. Okay.
So we haven't really had a, we just kind of don't have a chairman, right? For this committee. Or
We
board.
have, he's the
Wasn't
chairman,
Gary
too.
Gary did kind of take the lead in leading the meetings. David, would you like to do so, or do you want me to?
Happy to. So I guess we are called to order, and notice of this meeting has been published and posted in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and the requirements of the town of Kiowa Island. An old business, anyone get a chance of the notes from the October meeting? Mary Ann, we basically sort of reviewed things in this basically in relation to the pandemic. We had decided, the council had decided we were going to move incrementally to look at events as they came up and decide at least 3 months in advance whether to cancel them or not.
Right.
So that was basically the bulk of the meeting was talking about that, because that was right in October when things were heating up.
Pick up, yeah. I did read the minutes and I saw that, and Stephanie and Keely had advised me of that. So we're still in the wait and see position.
Yeah, and the only other thing that came up was our ticketing system, Vendini, was being bought out by another concern, and so there was some questions about how that was going to be, and I'm sure Keely and Stephanie can talk a little bit about that in this meeting when we move into new business. So, which I guess we can go into new business.
Do we need someone to approve the minutes as submitted?
They're not really minutes, they're just notes.
Notes, yeah.
Very good.
Well, as Marianne, as you pointed out, we've been doing it on an incremental basis, and as it will surprise no one that at every meeting that we've had monthly, we've essentially canceled all of our events for the upcoming months. And at our January meeting, we basically canceled our April events. Again, no surprise. The only thing that we did differently is that, and you may have seen this with the Fred Moyer concert a few weeks ago, is that we decided that it's possible to have some of the events we had scheduled doing them virtually online. And so it looks, and we did a Fred Moyer Christmas show a couple of weeks ago, and that went over very, very well, I thought. We got a very positive response from it. We're working with a folk group, which was scheduled in February, called Small Glories, which is scheduled to perform virtually on February 13th. But as of today, we're going to have to renegotiate things because of the pandemic in Canada, where they're from. They actually can't perform together.
Oh my.
They're on lockdown and they can't rehearse or perform. So we've got a couple of options, and Keely and I and Stephanie will discuss. We're going to stay on the Zoom unofficially to sort of talk about it, because we just got this letter today. So we've got Quentin Baxter is presenting 2 jazz concerts, one in February, one in March, virtually, and they're in the process of preparing that. And then we've just figured out that the symphony is actually going to rehearse and tape a performance at West Beach on March 13th and 14th for broadcast to our community sometime that week, we think. Is that right, Keely?
I haven't heard an update from Becky after she met with them, but that was what I understood before she went into that meeting. So
Just gonna rehearse on the 13th and then film on the 14th. So
those are my notes in terms of the virtual events. The 2 Quentin concerts, Small Glories and the Symphony, would conclude our season. We still have Piccolo Preview scheduled in May, and we'll determine whether that's a go or not. We'll recommend something on that at our next meeting in first week in February. And I'm very doubtful that it'll go. So.
And Marianne, that one's really is spearheaded by the Office of Cultural Affairs. So we kind of just play host to preview the Piccolo display at the festival. So
Mhm.
It really depends on them anyways, so. Keely, do you have the numbers for the Fred Moyer, just roughly how many people tuned in to that?
Sure. So we had about 220 people register, and we had about, I want to say 190 watched.
Okay.
So really good attendance.
Very
One
good.
of the people who signed up and didn't watch was Becky, who's on our arts council, and she had her kids in town. So we assured her she can still go watch. So maybe some more people will trickle in. But overall, I thought it was really great. And it was great to see the amount of people that really did watch it that night. I think that's really fun when everyone can get on at the same time. And so a lot of people did.
That's
And
very
Mary,
good.
the way that we've been running those is that it's sent to them the night of, just before the performance time, so everybody's experiencing it together, but it's also available for a certain amount of time afterwards.
Oh, it is. Okay. So
Mhm.
you can tune in anytime after if you miss it.
Within a window, yeah, depending on when it is and what days it falls on, and the artist's agreement to it.
Well, that's,
Watched it the next day, in fact, which was great for me.
was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what Keely did, which I thought was great, she sent the artists and the folks doing the program the Town of Kiowa Arts Council logo. So it was there, and it looked like, I mean, it was essentially that we produced and presented the concert. So it was nice publicity for the town.
Great. That was a good idea, Keely.
It really wasn't my idea. I heard that he had done that for other people, so I sent him ours. It wasn't my idea.
Fred has done that for a really long time too, and I think it even when we had in-person events, and it really is a nice branding thing for the town and the Arts Council. It's a nice little touch on the wall.
At our last meeting, because the symphony is going to be using that concert and presenting it to its subscribers after a certain period of time, we told Becky to make sure that Ken Lamb and the symphony
Mhm.
publicizes the town as much as possible during the concert, sort of localize it so that that brand sort of is out there to the symphony folks, even after it's presented to the Kiowa residents.
Well, that's wonderful. It's a great symphony.
And that one's going to be special, sort of, because it's Beethoven's anniversary, right? That's the theme.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I had read that.
So we can get Mary Ann the little quarter in review, even though for her update and what's upcoming about the virtual concerts, to be able to report to town council on that, because council hasn't had an update in a while on that. So
Yeah, that would be helpful, I guess, for the retreat.
okay.
So when I get that, I can report out.
Great.
We always look forward to hearing about the Arts Council because the programs are so good. Okay.
I guess Keely and Stephanie have budgeted. Obviously, this year's budget is completely out of whack with what was originally figured out because of all the cancellations. And I will say that we've successfully told all the council members that no, we can't keep the money that we saved from this year and spend it next year. So that
And carry over, huh?
we're okay for that on that. So
Good. I think the
Um,
virtual idea was very good. That's a way to get to people, and everyone's looking for something to do, so it really helps.
Yeah.
that's Keely, or do you have any more information about the current season updates? Anything else you want to say?
Oh, that's pretty much
Okay.
it.
Do you have to cancel anything at this meeting?
Not
Do
at
we
this
say
meeting, no. We'll meet on February 4th to probably to cancel the one event we have scheduled in May.
Very good.
So
Okay.
you can probably anticipate that. Don't you guys agree? Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen.
Will be, yeah.
Yeah.
Though the vaccine rollout, I'm feeling a little better about it now than I did a week ago because I got the vaccine this week. So
Oh, you did, good. Where
Yeah.
did you go for it?
I just,
MUSC?
Hmm? Say that again, Marianne?
David, where did you go for it?
I went to Roper, St. Francis over in West Ashley.
Okay,
And
Yeah,
they had very organized, very, a lot of stations open and.
oh, that's great. I'm going to MUSC this week. So I
Um,
can't-
Quick question I have. So with regards to Arts Council, have you guys, what is the process you guys have, David, for selecting a co-chair? Do you,
Uh, We haven't done that yet. And Steffi and I and Keely and I have sort of talked about that. I actually asked one of our members to serve to see if she would. She turned me down, so I'm not quite sure what to do. To honest, I'm not the vice chair. My duty over the past 2 years was really looking at the venues and sorting out dates and venues so that if we knew we wanted to book Fred Moyer, I checked with Seabrook or with Barbara Steele at the resort to see if we could get a particular date. While Gary arranged work with Stephanie and Keely on some of the financials. What I told the Arts Council is that since I was used to doing that, I've already talked to Barbara and the folks at the churches, I would continue to do that. I've got time to do that. And I've made the contacts, and there are a lot of new folks at the churches too. So I've got a pretty good relationship with them. So I'm not sure we need a vice chair this year, Stephanie. But what I did at the last meeting was I told all the members of the Arts Council that I would have to call on them to give me some assistance. I'm going to be out of the country hopefully in May, so I won't attend the May meeting. So I told Jody Rush can run the meeting at that point. So I think people can fill in, unless you guys think it's something we need to do and have to do. But I'm open.
no, I was just curious in terms of what you guys are going to do, because I think I have to go back and look. Sorry, I did not look. I think with this charter, we state that we're going to have the chair and vice chair from Arts Council on. So it's not like there's a rush, because I know, for instance, when you say this year, I don't know if you're talking about this season, as opposed to looking for a vice chair for next season. But there's no rush, but I just wasn't sure what you guys thought process on that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we kind of
Yeah.
thought that we would wait a little bit and see how just finish the season. And then if we needed to, like you said, Steph, if we decided that we thought that we could roll without it, that we would amend that, and then that would go before council, obviously. The charter would eventually be amended. But I think David and but Keely, there's members on the council that would do a good job in that role, but then they also have to be willing to and have the time to dedicate to it. But there's also members that really don't want to participate at that level, so we can't really guarantee that we'll always have someone under that anyways. We kind of had talked about that in the past.
Okay.
David, you could always use this board as the excuse to nominate somebody because they're not here.
I'd like a few months to work on a couple of people too.
What is you guys, just so that I know, and for the 21-22 calendar year, I believe you guys are going to be meeting, I guess, virtually. Is it next month or this month to start your planning session?
We actually started back in October. Gary had proposed a sort of a different system this year by creating subgroups based on musical genres. And so members could volunteer to serve on whatever subgroup they wanted, whether it was jazz, theater, review, comedy, classical, folk, blues, that sort of thing. So each of us served on 1, 2, or sometimes even 3 working groups, and then suggested particular events within that genre. And Gary's idea, which I thought was a good one, was that sort of avoided duplication where everybody presented what they wanted to at the final meeting in February, and we just sort of horse traded as to what event was going to happen. And although I think there were some things that we could tweak with this process, I think it worked pretty well because each group recommended 3 or 4 events in each genre, and we certainly had enough to vote on in terms of the cultural events at our last meeting. And we just literally this week, Keely sent out a voting sheet for the Arts Council events, the ones that are not funded by ATAX. And we just got the results literally yesterday or 2 days ago. So at our next meeting, we'll basically finalize the season, Stephanie.
Oh, okay.
This year was pretty easy because we essentially, for the most part, we thought it was fair to the artists that we contracted with last year to contract with them this year, so they didn't have a loss in income. So it was fairly easy. And so most of the groups said, okay, we canceled 3, this concert, let's see if we can reschedule them for next year. And that's pretty much what happened.
Okay, good. Is there anything that from an Arts Council board standpoint that you all need to vet through and discuss?
The only thing that we discussed yesterday, and I don't even know that it needs to go through the board, but we had been looking at least for this next upcoming season, having event services doing the ticketing and entry at the events, especially the larger venues, to remove the arts, to put, like a separation between our Arts Council members and the public. So just to make it a little bit, as the country begins to open up after the vaccine, it's a little safeguards, but also I would like, and we've talked about this before, to see it from a sustainability standpoint, become something that we utilize at the larger venues because we already rely heavily on volunteers, and it's a hefty workload, and they can still own the event in a sense and play host, but not have to do the physical burden of scanning tickets and things of that nature. So
is that cost already factored in to you guys' budget, or are you going to be coming to council for additional revenue to cover that cost?
our ticketing is going to actually cover that.
Okay.
So no, we would not be coming to ask for more money.
Pretty conservative. When Keely and Stephanie and I met, we decided we would estimate at only 60% capacity for the ticket events in terms of revenue, and we'll be able to pay for event services out of that. And I think it's probably a good idea. Some of our members are pretty reluctant to work events given the pandemic. I'm not sure how comfortable they're going to be in August even.
No.
That's what I asked when the first event's going to. Have we figured out from a liability standpoint that we do not have anyone from Arts Council setting up lighting and all of that? Was that matter finally resolved?
That was resolved last year, and we have a contractor now doing that. And
yeah, it seems like we went through several contractors, but we now have
one we're happy with. Yep.
Okay.
And actually, that kind of, if you review the spreadsheets, and Keely can speak more to this too if you want more detail, but depending on the venue and depending on the artist, the lighting costs can change. And so, if you ever look at the spreadsheet and wonder why lighting for this event or that event is different, that would be the reason why.
Right, because they have different types of lighting requirements.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I think event services will be helpful too, because I think our members have an easier time greeting customers than they do scanning tickets.
Oh, yeah.
That's, yeah.
I know that.
Understandable.
Right.
Yes. I've experienced that in the Liquid Pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite events that I go to.
And that's one of the events where it is, that's got such a large crowd. That actual process is very important. And, as we continue to have successful events and successful performers, that's going to continue to be an issue. And I think that by subbing in event services, allowing them to see that this year being necessary because of the current state of affairs, but also getting familiar with it, I think they're going to be happier with that in the long term anyways.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only other thing that's different, Keely, do you want to talk a little bit about the Vendini, the movement to the new ticketing system?
Sure. So we started using Vendini for the, what was it, the 2019-2020 season, and went to all online ticketing, which worked well once we got kind of our system down. You know, some people were hesitant to jump on board, some of our patrons, but we ended up registering 612 people as Kiowa registered, which means they can get the 3-day access, early access online. So it was successful in that realm. But Vendini merged with a larger ticketing platform earlier in last year, not earlier in this year, last year in 2020. So we have been working with them to try and figure out how that switch is going to impact us. And we were able to get a pretty great option for us, which is an annual fee. And as long as we stay within the allotment of tickets included in that annual fee, we won't be paying per ticket fees for either our free tickets or our paid tickets. So it's a lot more simple for us and really works better with the way we do our programming. So happy with the way that's looking for us now.
Wonderful. Is that allotment of tickets for the annually? Is that per event?
It's an annual allotment. So we get a little over 5,000 paid tickets and a little over 5,000 free tickets for the whole year.
What happened this year due to the pandemic when you had to cancel? Do we end up having to pay extra, or they figured because of the pandemic, they waived some sort of fees?
What happened is before we only paid on there was no fee. There was no monthly fee. There was no annual fee. It was all done per ticket. So when the pandemic happened, and this is why we kind of think this switch happened, when the pandemic happened, their revenue stream essentially stopped because it was all based on the per ticket. So it really isn't that surprising when you look at it that they would want to do some sort of membership annually or monthly.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
But it looks like I did one webinar a couple months ago, and I'll continue to be learning more about the system, but it looks like it's going to be at least the same caliber, but probably better than what we have been using, which is great.
Good.
Mary Ann, just so you know, some of our events are ticketed where we will charge a $10 fee. Some of them are free. All the ones at the churches are free, but we're still using tickets so that we don't sell out. We've got some idea of capacity. And then some events are handled by the artists themselves. So Quentin Baxter does all of his own tickets and sells them. Charleston Jazz Orchestra, when we book them, they do all of their ticketing, so we don't have to deal with it. So
I didn't realize.
I think those are the three basic options that we've got.
No.
Well, and part of that's because the cost to bring those particular artists are a little bit more than we, the Arts Council, would commit to. And so the trade-off was they were able to charge a ticket fee that's slightly higher than what we would. And so as a part of that, they take on the burden and responsibility of ticketing.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay.
All right. Anything else,
I
guys?
got on the updates for both this season or last season.
We'll just get Mary Ann something to report to.
Yes, please. That's great. Well, David, thank you. It's been very nice to meet you. I look
Good to
forward
meet
to
you.
working with you. And I look forward to finding out more about the Arts Council and participating whenever I can.
That's
So-
great.
Mary Ann,
Well,
I did tell them about our meeting at the Arts Council's last meeting. I told them about meeting with you and that in the future that you might be attending a
Yes.
meeting virtually. So we'll continue to provide that information to you and you can decide when you have time and it fits your schedule to pop in and say hello.
Thank you. I will do.
that's good. We only regret that we usually have our late February or early March meetings at Cacique where we have very nice breakfasts. So
Ah.
not this year.
Planning.
Okay.
Right.
Great.
That's it. Does anyone have anything else? Stephanie Tillerson, anything, any questions?
No, great job. Awkward season, and thank you, David, for jumping right in to the chair role. I don't have anything else.
If there's nothing else, I guess, go ahead. I'm sorry, Marion.
I just said thank you, everybody.
Oh,